problem. And then we've got the murder hornets.
Have you seen one yet?
My assistant just got bit by a bee. I'm like, oh, murder hornet?
That maybe UFOs are legit at this point.
Wait a second.
All right, we're rolling. What's up?
It's so funny because I look at people who speak on fun topics and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool too. It really is. I mean, I'm reading laws and trying to get people interested in RESPA. Or right now, fair lending has been my thing since I started. My first seminar I ever did that was a large seminar. My second seminar I ever did was fair lending. And right now, there's never been a better time for me to be able to convince loan officers to treat people equally. But that's what I've been teaching forever. So I'm now trying to get you to understand it. And so I'm showing you red line maps and I'm showing you like the story of why something exists. And I find that if I can engage people at the brain level where like they go, oh, wait, this is super interesting. Then I can pop them with humor and they're like, whoa, wait, what just happened? And you can keep people like their brains engaged. And the loan officers that I've trained over the years, having been a loan officer, I know what that personality is like because I have it. My Instagram is ADHD CEO. And so as a person with ADHD, I know that I am going to get bored if I'm teaching something that's not exciting. And I've got to keep it that way so that I keep it like on that cutting edge and your brain never rests when you're in my seminar. Because I would never want to give somebody an experience that I would hate.
Do you have a process in these seminars or just in all of the teaching that you do where there's going to be a topic that's going to take a while? This isn't a 10-minute topic. Yeah. Do you think about the way the human brain works, especially that of a salesperson, and say, I'm going to go hard for 15 minutes and then I'm going to break it up with something? Like, do you have some sort of process that you follow like that?
So if we're doing an 8-hour day, so every year I write another 8-hour seminar for the NMLS continuing education for that year that I'm doing.
How often? Every year, you said?
Every year, yeah.
Okay.
And so I'll spend from like June to November processing what I want to talk about. And then in November, I'll put it all down. And then I'll present it to my team and be like, okay, what do you guys think? And then we'll go back and rework it. And then I'll put it back together. But I'm looking at, dive in with some lecture and then pull back with some activity. And then we film a different set of videos every year for inside of that class. Mm-hmm. So like this year was Game of Loans. So we did a full 25-minute movie called Game of Loans, and you're watching 5 minutes here and there. And so we start with it, then I'll lecture, and then it's like they're exhausted, bust out some Game of Loans. And so it'll kind of come through all the way through the day. And we did Sons of Compliance before that. I think I've got my Sons of Compliance water bottle.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we did it was ex-regulators that drove smart cars and wanted to go bust bad guys that they couldn't bust as regulators. We did 2 seasons of that. We did American Lender. Matt Ellarding, right?
Yes, I do.
Matt is Jimmy Quick in all of our videos. He's
really?
been the longest running actor in the videos. Him and Ryan Hills from the RE Source.
Yeah, okay.
Ryan plays opposite him as Jeff Gaines, the loan officer that is super slimy loan officer. So
they're all local? They're up near you, right? Geographically?
Matt's down the street or 20 minutes from us, and then Ryan's 2.5 hours north of Seattle. But yeah, so we do, like, I'll go, okay, I really need them to get this concept, but then I need them to laugh. And so we'll kind of go back and forth between those.
No, that's great. So you were a communications major in college, right?
I was a criminal justice major in the beginning.
I thought it was speech communications.
It was, yeah. That's how I graduated. I was criminal justice, though. I was in the police department.
So did you switch, or do you have 2 degrees?
I have a minor in criminal justice. So That was my major, and I was going to be going straight cop, like worked for the police department for 3 years, and I was the next cop to be hired. And then I got married, gave up my job as a police officer, in the police department. I was in property and evidence. Okay. So what happened was CJ major, I thought the rest of my life I'd just be a cop. And then I took a speech comm class. It was a public speaking class. And I just freaking loved it. Like I lit up. Like I sucked at school. I was a 2.67 GPA in high school. I was a 2.33 GPA in junior college. Mm-hmm. And that class was the only one I liked. And somebody walked up and they're like, hey, have you ever thought about the debate team? We need somebody. And I'm like, no, what is it? And then I went and did my first tournament was not great. My partner was horrible. And my second tournament, we won every single ballot in the entire tournament and swept the tournament. And I'm like, I like this. So I started debating and I switched my major to speech comm, quit the police department, and my life changed at that point.
We're bouncing around a little bit because you made me think of something else. I mean, here, successful guy, started a business, well known in our industry. I can't stop talking about your content and I haven't even seen it all, but every now and then I'll catch a new one, either because I'll look it up on YouTube or I just signed up to get some of your emails.
Yeah.
But even if I don't know what it is you're talking about, which I do, they still make me laugh or give me energy. Like they give me some juice, and I'm not even taking any of your classes and I'm digging it that much. But listening to your experience in college, do you have opinions? Or, I mean, the education system's getting hammered right now. There's going to be a lot of changes. We're already sort of coming. A guy like you probably could have been really successful in sort of an open enrollment environment. And maybe that's what you were in when you went to school. You went to JUCO to start, so you didn't go the normal university route. You probably see a ton of value in that kind of education, to not feel so much pressure to, I have to get a degree in 4 years. I have to pick a major. I have to figure this out real quick. But to go one route and then all of a sudden be introduced to one thing that just lights a fire that you're still doing today.
Yeah. And I think that's what college is good for. Like I didn't have a party scene. I was married at 20. So, I mean, we didn't have alcohol at our wedding. So I didn't do the typical college experience that most people would. I skipped fourth grade. So I graduated at 17 and then went straight into junior college at DVC in California. So yeah, but after 3 years of that, switching over, like, that was the best part of college for me, was finding what I loved and then getting into communications and studying. I graduated from Metro State in Denver, but studying, nonverbal communication and corporate culture. Like I started seeing how people communicate in companies and going, I want to change the way people communicate in their company. And I was 19 when I decided that. And now I do it for a living. So it's rare to have somebody go to college and come out and do what they went to college for. But I think it's probably more rare to switch your major and then come out and do, this type of thing. I don't know. I think I'm just fortunate to have had that experience, but that was what college was for me. I don't know that college is for everybody. I've got 3 kids and I don't know if my youngest starts a company like right now, she'll probably be uber successful and make way more than I did, because her brain is just entrepreneur brain. My oldest, college is great for him, because he likes that structure, right, and likes, going and socializing or learning socialization techniques that you learn in college. I don't mean socializing like drinking every night, because he still hates anybody that drinks, but he's like, his brain is so like, he just needs that straight, that experience. So, and I don't know what my middle's going to do. We'll see. She doesn't like me calling her my middle, but my middle child, who knows? I think it's just different for different people. But you can watch TED Talks for 2 weeks, listen to a couple of Joe Rogan podcasts, and you can learn a ton, versus classes I took in college that matter not to me. Like they're just not at all, they didn't help me, but I needed to check a box. So, yeah.
Totally agree. My oldest is a sophomore. He's similar track to, is it your son that's taking a semester off, you said?
Taking a year off.
Taking a year off. So my son's taking a semester off, and that might turn into a year. The timing is fine, even better than we thought it was going to be because of everything that's happening. But when he comes home and visits, or even when he was going through high school, he's a brilliant kid. He doesn't do great in school. He has to work really, really hard to make the same grades as a lot of his buddies. But the conversations that he can have with you are mind-boggling around, anthropology, and he'll tell you he's terrible at science, yet the conversations he'll have with you make you think you need to be a biologist or something. But it's to your point. He's learning everything on YouTube videos and online classes that he doesn't look as classes, because there's not a test at the end. He just enjoys it and learns from it and moves on. Yeah. Now, I was wondering that, just thinking about your background on the education side, and ultimately what you've done in building and running a a business, but also training really high ego salespeople on spending time slowing down to understand these regs. Did you start the videos and the I call them commercials, but they're not. I mean, you do some that are commercials that look like commercials, and others are like an entire episode of a show. Was that day one when you started this thing, or did you evolve to that?
Yeah. No, so I did all live seminars in the beginning, and then in 2010, it was my then business partner that talked me into doing video, and I'm like, I'll never do video. And he's like, dude, you got to do video. Everything's going video. I'm like, no, I'll never do video. I had shot one video, and the video was I had shot it because I needed video for some speaker bureau or whatever. And so I set up a camera, started speaking in front of a group about 100 and something people. And then for like 30 minutes, and then I turned the camera off and continue my seminar. And everybody's like, wait, who was that showed up at the beginning of the day? And I was like, what? And they're like, you were not yourself. Because when I started, I was trying to say all my words correctly, trying to use bigger words, thinking about that stupid camera staring at me. And it sucked. And so I swore I would never do video again. And then at that time, the state of Washington had come out with their anti-yield spread premium jargon. So back then you could get yield spread on a loan, and they had decided that was predatory. And I'm like, no, because banks get it, brokers get it, banks don't have to disclose it. So why is it when a broker discloses it, it's all of a sudden predatory when the banks are doing it? And it just made me mad. And so I went out on video and started shooting some videos about it, which led to a Wednesday update video that I started doing every Wednesday. And the beginning videos are super bad. It's all hazy down in the corners from my green screen. I had a green sheet on a wall. It was 2010, so I was working from home. I had shut the office down because we had just gotten pummeled in the crash. Mm-hmm. And so here I am, like squeezing into a room, like crouched down so it looks like I'm standing, but I had to get down where my green screen was. And then I just was like, I think the moment for me was people made comments on the video like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this was the case. We have to do something. And I'm like, mobilized, like we got it, we did it. And I realized the power of video right then of I can say it once, share it across, and like make a difference, which is what I like. My life is set up to make a difference. It's all I want to do. I want to leave this mortgage industry better than the way I found it. And when I found out you could do that better with video, I just never stopped. And so that's when we started. So I started creating it, editing it, doing all my own stuff. And then now I've got a team. Our video content team is ridiculous. I'm not even part of a lot of the planning or being in a lot of the videos we're doing. So when you see them, I just walk in the office and look over, and there's some crazy thing going on where they're shooting. I don't know if you saw the forbearance skit they did.
I don't think
freaking
so.
Hilarious, but this inspector pops his head through the roof or through like into an attic. Well, that's like a table with this weird thing they set up on it, and it like I'm looking at it like, what is that going to be? And then I see the video, and it looks like the dude's in an attic. It's crazy. So now the team does all of that work, but they're just insane. But it was really figuring out that people want video. And telling people 5-minute videos make sense was that like I had to sell that to people, and still do. I still have compliance officers because remember, we do a lot of compliance training.
Right.
And I still have compliance officers that are like, no, I don't think you can do training with using video, or no, humor doesn't have any place in compliance training. Like we get that feedback, and it drives me crazy because there are loan officers that aren't getting good training. Their training is miserable, and they have to take it. And it's horrible, and their compliance department says, well, no, we believe that's effective. Meanwhile, they're passing their notes like, hey, what'd you guys get for number 2? Just to answer the questions to check the box.
Right.
And it drives me insane because it needs to be 5-minute funny videos, with a quiz and all that stuff, because that's how we learn. And like to think that we learn by staring at words until we're allowed to click is insane.
I know I can't. Maybe if you're an attorney, you can do that. But and again, I go back to so many of the people you're training are salespeople. Their minds aren't wired that way. Right. They want to go out. They want to be in the street. They want to be communicating with their referral partners and their customers. They want to look at the whiteboard and set goals for themselves and go attack those goals.
Yeah.
You figured out a niche to make this other piece just more palatable. So that they actually enjoy it, but then have the time and also through the software, the efficiencies to spend more time going out and doing what they actually like to do. You mentioned you want to leave this industry in a better place than where you found it.
Yeah.
I love that. Is there something top of mind for you right now that you're working on that you think will be important for the next 5 years, 10 years for you to focus on and work on, and maybe for the industry to focus on?
Yeah. So in our company, we've really doubled down on all of the work from home technology. So you can light up a video call in like a second in the Coop. And it's 1-to-1 or 1-to-35. So we're working on ways that we can make that easier for people. The interesting thing about our industry is we're so non-tech savvy. Look at how long it took us to create some of this technology, because most of the people in the mortgage industry have grown up here and the tech space never knew we existed. And so there wasn't a lot of this, so that like some of the original technology was pretty bad, including like when we launched the Coop in 2012, the Knowledge Coop software was pretty buggy because you get your MVP out there and then you start, working on it from the feedback that you get. But the industry hasn't been very tech forward, and people haven't been willing to go on video. And so now that people are willing to go on video because they have to for these Zoom calls that people are doing, for us, my goal of getting companies to communicate more effectively will now be realized better because people aren't afraid of video. And I've been telling CEOs that are clients of ours, like, you have to get in front of your people. If you're not on video, other people are, and they will take your people. And I always brag about this guy. Do you know Rich Jefferson from Network? He's lives in Arizona, but is big in sales for network funding. And the guy he does a daily update video every single day in the Coop. And I'm watching the comments on it. I'm watching the likes. He's doing it right. And that's making a huge difference in his company. And that's what we want to enable for a lot of other companies, is I need them to follow us into the future and engage in the system the way that they need to get their people to follow it. Because if a recruiter walks up and goes, hey, we've got this opportunity for you, and it's somebody that works for somebody who's actually properly engaged their people, if what I want is for them to go, sorry, my company's in the Coop, unless you can get me that and the thought leaders at my company, I can't do it, I'm not leaving. And that's the goal, is to create that type of environment. And that's what we're working on.
Well, just the encouragement of communication. I mean, the reality is that, like it or not, if you're an originator or a producing manager or a manager with a group of people that you recruited and you built the culture of that branch and you feed off of each other, it is a bit of a free agent industry. It is a bit of a free agent market, and the industry is very comfortable for all the right reasons with that, for the most part, meaning XYZ mortgage company, we this is our technology, this is our product, this is our price, these are our processes. We're the mousetrap. You're the one that is the expert in your market. You're the one that's going to build and own those relationships, and we're not going to take that away from you. We're going to support your brand.
Right.
I tend to agree with that for the most part. The problem with that, though, is if you don't then continue to communicate with those people consistently and predictably through good times and bad, to your point, Ken, when that day comes where they think, look, I know a lot of people that made changes to other companies over the years, lots and lots, that made a change because they think they could accomplish their goals better at another company, that's not a knock on the company that they left. It just meant they were moving to a different model. It was like, I'm going from the West Coast offense to, something that's more of a ground and pound kind of offense, because the way I'm built is built for one versus the other.
Totally.
What's interesting, though, is when the company that they left has a solution for what they wanted. They have a model to go achieve the goals that they were looking to accomplish, but their leadership didn't remind them. Their leadership didn't keep it in front of them. They didn't communicate the way that you were suggesting. I think leaving companies for specific reasons, of course, I don't think that's such a bad thing. I think potentially you can do better on your, for yourself, for your referral partners, for your customers. Quite frankly, the company that you left may also be better off as well, because you may not be a match for each other anymore.
Yeah.
But what's disappointing, to your point, is when those changes happen simply because proper communication was never in place.
Yep. Yeah, they're just about to plug something in, but they didn't set the vision with the team. And a lot of times the sad part is it's because the CEO didn't want to go on camera. And it's like, oh, just email out something for me. Like, as soon as you stop being the leader of your company, there's a huge problem there.
Well, go back also, because not everybody's like you. By the way, that was the best advice I ever got from someone a long time ago when I got really irritated in a meeting and the CEO of that company came into my office and I thought I was like, I'm the big producer, you can't mess with me. He opens up my office and was really irritated and said, you need to learn something real fast. And that is that not everybody's like you. And at the time I took that as a huge negative. I look back as a real positive. I think hopefully it's helped me communicate with people better than the way I did before. But going back to not everybody's like you, Ken, you would dig in to the overall value proposition of the company. You'd go find it yourself. Most people don't do that though. And they need the CEO and the head of production and the regional leadership and the branch managers to communicate in such a way from the moment that I'm building a relationship with you to the point where we've been together for 10 years, that when I get that phone call from a recruiter, that if I'm going to make a move, it's for a really specific, obvious reason. Mm-hmm. It's not because I had a bad day and I don't know where you stand on a topic.
Right. Right.
So, outside of the industry. So wrapping up here real quick. By the way, we could do this for 3 hours. I'm not long form Joe yet though. So down the road, maybe we'll do that. You and I have talked about some things you do outside of the industry that I think give you juice, give you energy. I know you've talked about you do some volunteer work, I think at an orphanage. Is that right?
Yeah. In Guatemala.
I'm curious, maybe talk about that for a minute, but I'm curious things like that kind of give you the juice and the energy to perform the way that you perform in business.
Yeah, I actually got invited. My son was going on a mission trip to Guatemala to go serve in this orphanage and build some houses. And I was looking for his last year at home. And I'm like, whatever he's doing, I'm doing. So I joined up and went with him and then just fell in love with the country and with the people down there. And so that was July 4 years ago. And so I launched my own trip in January. I just reached out to the mortgage industry, said, who wants to go? And took a group in January, then again in July, then January, then July, then January. So I've taken 7 trips. And so I'm just addicted. And part of it is, I think we've lost our ability to access joy somewhat in America and in North America. And when you go down to Central America and see the lack that they have of material possessions, and you see the amount of joy they're able to access is unbelievable. And you look at them and their situation and you go, how? Like, if I have to stay in my house for 2 months, I'm freaking out and going to therapy. Like that, this devastated me. Right. They have nothing. I'm sitting in a giant house with, an amazing family and tons of food, and I'm having trouble managing. And they're living in absolute poverty. Their floor isn't paved. In most cases, the husband has left the house. And in most cases, the wife and the kids are happy about that because he used to beat them so bad and was so addicted to substance. And so, that's what they're dealing with. And you walk into that town and it's all hugs and it's all, just they find joy in such like amazing places that I have trouble accessing. And so ever since then, I go for me. Like I help down there and I'm like, I know I'm making a huge difference down there and just my relationships with them. But I go a lot because I need that so badly to remember what matters in this world and what life is about. Because I forget really fast. And now I'm to the point where when the wheels touch down in Guatemala City, I immediately start breathing. Like I'm like I put aside all the junk from home and I'm now landed and feeling, like I can connect and I can make a difference. So we'll go down in January again. They're having trouble holding the nonprofit together right now because nobody can travel on mission trips. So all summer long, all their money isn't coming in.
So it's wiped out this summer. I was going to ask you about that. So it's not happening right now.
It's gone. And a lot of the people that lost their jobs used to be donating to sponsor kids, and they're stopping their donations. So I just talked to the director of the orphanage or the nonprofit yesterday. Here's the cool thing about the industry. I throw on Facebook, hey, you guys, nonprofits having trouble surviving right now. Like, can anybody help my friends in Guatemala? And the mortgage industry donated $2,500 in like an hour from my post.
That's awesome.
And so we're going to put a bunch of money towards it, and we're encouraging other people to. But We should be back by January. So I'm starting to actually plan for that trip. And the way I do it is I just go, hey, who wants to go to Guatemala? And Rob Chrisman went with me one year. It was awesome. He's so funny down there with the kids because he just lit up. But my favorite thing to do is watch people engage and watching them drop who they used to be or who they've had to be and embrace who they really are down there. When you get a kid, climbing all over you and you're like, okay, this is what I'm made for. Like, it's this joy. So,
right.
Yeah.
What's the name of the nonprofit?
It's called Forever Changed International. And the orphanage is called Dory's Promise. So yeah, it's amazing. And absolutely, it was earth shaking for me. So I'll never stop going.
I don't have the following you have, but I'll tag it. I'll put it up when we put this up and encourage everybody to share it. I'd love to go do that with you someday. I know we talked about this a few years ago when we were grabbing some food after an industry event at one of the NBA events. I haven't forgotten about it. You're if my wife listens to this one, she'll shake her head thinking, okay, so Ken Perry takes his son to Guatemala. You took your son to Key West before he left the house. But take that back. We didn't go to Key West. We went to the Keys. We did some fishing. We did some father-son bonding. But I probably could have done better on that one for sure.
At it. Don't get rid of the Keys. We took our son to Tokyo when he graduated. So
that's awesome.
We still do both. But I mean, that's the beauty of this industry is we have some freedom to do stuff like that and to give back. And for those in the mortgage industry right now, if they're not giving back, I believe they're losing something big right now because we've made a lot of money in this industry. And if you're making it and not giving it away in some productive way, then you're just missing, some of those opportunities to really be the change that you're in a position to be.
And to your point, you get something out of it. I struggle with the word altruism because by the definition, I don't buy it. It seems when I do altruistic things or when we do altruistic things, you find that you get as much, if not more out of it than the person or the group that you supposedly were doing something for nothing in the first place. And I like to ask that question because I think we got to find that spot where we do get a little bit of juice. We all have it. That's a unique one. And I love it. Hey, anything else you want to talk about before we break?
I'm feeling good. We're going back to normal. I need to be back to normal fast. So, I think one final thought I think would be, I just read this thing on like, what if this was the best year ever? And I've been so dogged on 2020 as the biggest dumpster fire ever, but I'm starting to reformat my thoughts and trying to figure out like, what did I get out of this? And I got a ton. I've been flying around traveling for 17 years and I got to stay home. And it was a total nightmare right out the gate. My kids are like, when do you leave again, Dad? Because mom runs the household, right? She has a job as well. She works as a mental health therapist, which helps. But, they look at me and they're like, wait, you're Disney dad. Like, don't you take us out to do cool things and have a bunch of fun? And now I'm in like, why do we do it this way? And they're like, because it works, Dad. And so I went from that to like now figuring out, having a better appreciation for what happens in the house, having better, deeper relationships with my kids. Being able to pause long enough to brainstorm like what's going on at the company. We're growing as a company. Like we've got a lot out of this. And so I'm trying to shift that perspective now for myself.
Well, I mean, we look back 2008, 2009, you talked about how you pulled it all into the house 2010 because you kind of had to. At that time, you probably would have thought 2008, 2009, that this is as bad as it's ever going to get. I mean, it doesn't get worse than this. But innovation comes out of it. You callous up a little bit, right? And you build the things that are going to protect you the next time around. You spend time on things that maybe you're not spending time on. It's not to say that this period of time isn't going to be horribly painful for a lot of people. And did you say that your wife is a mental health expert?
Yeah.
I mean, especially you didn't say that in the beginning because we would have only talked about that the whole time. And I should have you back with your wife next to you and talk about that because that's a piece that, even those of us that I think are strong from a mental health perspective, nobody's acting normal right now. Nobody knows how to say or what to say or when to say the things that are on their mind or in their heart. I can only imagine what she's seeing and what she's going through right now. We'll have to save that one for a part two. Maybe we come back and she can start to tell us some positive stories.
She would do it. She started doing video using Marco Polo, doing video back and forth with friends. She's so good at video. I'm like, you have to get on video. She's an ADHD expert. So talk about things the mortgage industry could use, and a marriage counselor. So
you found the right partner. It sounds like that's for sure. Hey Ken, this was awesome. Let's do this again. It's been 50 minutes, as the longest one I've done so far. It's been 50 minutes. And I feel like we could go another hour or two. No problem. I'll get the nonprofit out. If anybody can support, that would be great. I want to talk to you about it again as we get closer to January if it's happening.
Yeah,
I'd love to try to figure that out. And hey man, don't forget about us. If there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, brother. We appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you.